There comes a moment when life stops feeling like a series of inconveniences and begins revealing itself as a forge. Nothing arrives gently once transformation begins. Every challenge hits with the intention of breaking old patterns, stripping away illusions, and exposing the parts of character that were never built to last. The individual who walks through these trials without understanding their purpose sees only chaos. The one who studies them sees shaping. Hardship becomes a sculptor, cutting away complacency with a steady and merciless hand. It is in these silent collisions with adversity that a person discovers their true material. Not the polished mask worn in calm seasons, but the raw substance underneath. The one strong enough to build a future from rubble. In that realization, perspective shifts. Difficulty stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like initiation. Conflict does not arrive to ruin life, it arrives to reveal what must be strengthened within it. Nothing teaches faster than discomfort. Pain carries information that comfort conceals. The exact areas where the mind hesitates are the same areas where resilience is needed. Each obstacle introduces a confrontation with limitation. Hesitation shows where improvement is required. Frustration shows where patience must grow. Fear shows where courage must be rehearsed. When approached with awareness, hardship becomes a curriculum with perfect precision. Every experience offers a lesson tailored to the next stage of evolution. Those who learn to decipher these lessons stop running from difficulty and begin treating it as a training ground. Growth accelerates because resistance no longer feels like an enemy. Every setback becomes a mirror. At first, the reflection is unwelcome. It exposes weaknesses that were ignored, habits that were defended, and truths that were avoided. But as the pain settles, clarity begins to rise. One realizes that the situation is not the enemy, the unprepared version of self is. Pain is diagnostic, not destructive. It points to fractures in discipline, cracks in intention, and gaps in resilience. Those who study their reflection instead of escaping it start replacing fragility with fortitude. They stop blaming circumstance and begin upgrading character. This is how breakdowns become breakthroughs. The person who refuses to look away from the mirror gains control over their evolution. Adversity teaches timing. Some battles require immediate action. Others demand patience. The difference becomes clear only after enough storms have been endured. Impulsiveness transforms into strategy. Reaction transforms into response. The individual who once panicked under stress begins to recognize patterns within chaos. Pressure no longer distorts perception, it sharpens it. Life's most difficult moments become tests of composure rather than triggers for retreat. When the mind learns to remain calm inside fire, the world loses its power to intimidate. The pressure that once crushed now becomes stimulus for clarity. This ability is not inherited. It is forged through repeated exposure to discomfort. The soul strengthens in silence long before the world notices. Progress in hard seasons is subtle, almost invisible. There are no applause breaks for enduring sleepless nights, nor trophies for rebuilding confidence after collapse. Yet this invisible work compiles into something extraordinary. The individual who continues to push when motivation dies awakens a part of themselves untouched by emotion. They start moving from principle, not preference. This shift creates a deeper kind of power, one that is independent of environment. When resilience transitions from effort into identity, pressure becomes routine rather than threat. The quiet warrior emerges not from battle itself, but from consistency in the aftermath of battle. Pain develops emotional precision. It forces awareness of internal patterns that comfort hides. Anger reveals unhealed wounds. Anxiety reveals lack of preparation. Sadness reveals attachment to illusions. Hard seasons dismantle the false narratives used to justify stagnation. Once these narratives collapse, authenticity surfaces. The individual stops negotiating with excuses. They learn to tell themselves the truth with brutal clarity. The more accurate the self-assessment becomes, the more powerful the transformation. Emotional control emerges naturally from this honesty. The heart that once fractured under pressure becomes capable of remaining steady through storms. The mind that once spiraled learns to observe without collapsing. This emotional strength is worth more than any external advantage. Discipline reborn through adversity becomes a force that carries life forward. Hardship teaches consistency, because inconsistency becomes too costly. The one who survives difficult seasons recognizes that routine is protective, not restrictive. Structure becomes armor. Habits become weapons. Each daily action becomes a reinforcement of identity. The rhythm built in difficulty continues into peace, allowing progress to compound with unnatural speed. Once discipline becomes a reflex, tasks that once felt overwhelming become effortless. The individual evolves beyond the need for motivation and begins relying on values that endure regardless of mood. This is how adversity transforms effort into instinct. Solitude often accompanies hardship, but solitude is not abandonment. It is refinement. When external support fades, internal strength must take its place. Silence reveals who one truly is when no audience exists to influence behavior. The person who learns to stand alone eventually becomes someone who can stand anywhere. The loneliness that once felt suffocating becomes a source of peace. Independence replaces dependence. Clarity replaces noise. Life becomes simpler not because circumstances improve, but because identity solidifies. Solitude trains the mind to rely on direction rather than distraction, intention rather than approval. Challenges become the architecture of character. Without resistance, potential stays dormant. Without friction, identity stays unshaped. Every difficulty endured becomes a layer of armor. Every setback overcome becomes a foundation stone. A person's depth is measured not by what they achieve in ease, but by what they survive in hardship. The stories worth telling are not born from comfort. They emerge from the moments where continuing felt impossible, but happened anyway. These stories become memory, then standard, then identity. The individual who grows through every season becomes someone who cannot be shaken by any season. What remains at the end of all trials is transformation, not of environment, but of self. Hardship cannot be avoided, but it can be navigated with purpose. The adversities of life teach precision, discipline, resilience, and courage. Those who face them consciously become architects of their own destiny. The journey through pain, pressure, and persistence produces a presence the world cannot ignore. This is the truth hidden in struggle. Hardship is not a curse. It is the sculptor of greatness. The one who understands this no longer fears adversity. They welcome it, knowing that each confrontation shapes who they are destined to become.